Alright guys, here we go. This is chapter 10, looking at political campaigns and elections, and we are going to be taking this chapter and viewing it through video lectures. You're going to be completing some reading notes on your own as well as with me through the PowerPoint. Then we're going to be analyzing current elections in Nebraska, and then we're also creating political commercials at the end of this chapter. So here we go. Our first vocabulary for elections, we're going to look at the word primary, plurality, and finally we'll finish out this chapter's vocabulary with the word caucus. First word, plurality. What is the word? The word is plurality. Plurality is a noun. So if you think in your head fist to five, go ahead and write this in your notebook, write the word plurality down, and then I want you to indicate next to plurality, fist to five, what your knowledge of the word is. Next, what word do you see in plurality? The word that you notice most is the word plural. Very easily, what does plural mean? Obviously, more than one. You use the word plural in math, you use it a lot of times in English. So, for example, geese is plural for goose, mice for mouse, and so forth. This is easy, right? Now that we know the root, let's check these other words out. Plural, pluralism, plurality, pluralistic, and we know that all these words have the root meaning more than one, but what does each of the words mean themselves? So as your task, you're going to go ahead and stop, and I want you to find and record the definitions for each of the words in your notebook, and then fill in the blanks for each sentence. This needs to be done before coming to class. So we'll go ahead and read the sentence. You'll fill in the word. If you need to, go ahead and pause, go back to the words so that you can write them back down. So the first sentence, America prides itself on the concept of having a society that respects cultural. Then you're going to go ahead and fill in the blank for each of those words. Sister Wives, a TLC reality show, describes the lives of multiple women involved in a blank marriage. In the blank society, the different religious backgrounds of citizens are respected and valued. And the next one, the winner had a blank of 15,000 votes, while the other two candidates received 10,000 and 8,000 votes respectively. So again, if you need to, go ahead and go back, find the words, put them into these sentences, as well as define each one of them in your notebooks. Looking at the definition of plurality, plurality describes the largest number of votes a candidate receives. The meaning applied to an election that emerged in the United States around 1824, and it referred to a group of candidates where none had an absolute majority over the others. So in this particular election, they were looking at the election of involving Andrew Jackson, and no one candidate had over 50% or had the majority of the votes. Therefore, the next largest number of votes became the plurality. So if you think of plural as having most, they have the most votes, but they don't have the majority of the votes. Our next word that we're going to look at is primary. So go ahead and write the word primary down into your notebooks. Again, what is the word? The word is primary. Primary is a noun. This is going to be a pretty basic review, especially from the beginning of the year and from history last year. Primary, what types of words sound like primary? Prime, obviously. List words that use prime or primary in your notebook. Here are a few to help you out. Primary school, which means the elementary school. Prime meridian, main or first line of longitude. Prime rib, or the best cut of meat. Goodness, I can't spell. Optimus Prime, or the best transformer. And go ahead and list out two more types of phrases or words that we use prime in. So how does all of this relate then to political elections? Primary actually is the first election held for the political offices. Example, in Nebraska's race for the governor, there are primaries for both the Democrats and Republicans running for each elected office. The primary, because primary means first, is the first step in the election process. So they have to actually get through the primary before they get into the general election. It's kind of a narrowing process. If we have 5 candidates, we need to get it down to 1 Republican candidate and 1 Democrat candidate. So primary, we have some different types. We have closed primaries, open primaries, blanket primaries. We also have nonpartisan primaries. So go ahead and write these in your notebook, and I want you to follow the graphic organizer I have on the next page to fill in the different types of primaries. First one is closed primaries. Closed primaries only allow party members to vote. So for example, you can only vote in a Republican primary if you are a registered Republican voter. Independents cannot vote at all because independents have not sided with the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, so therefore they are not allowed to vote in closed primaries. They have to wait until the general election. So when you receive a ballot in a closed primary, if you walk in and you tell them that you are a registered Republican voter, they can see that on your voter registration card. They give you a Republican ballot. You are only voting for Republican candidates. If you do the same the same would be true for the Democrats. The other type of primary is an open primary. Think open door. So the door is open for all people to vote on the primaries. So anyone can vote in the primaries. In this type of primaries, we have something called rating that can also occur. And what happens is that if you know that your opponent may be a weaker opponent, or there may be one person in a party that it's a weaker opponent, you would actually send people from your party to vote for the opposite party for the weak candidate in hopes of getting your candidate to win. So you would have a Republican primary and a Democrat primary, but you have people jumping or switching teams, so to speak, in order to vote for the weakest player so that your favorite on the other side can still win. The other type that we have is nonpartisan. When we look at the word nonpartisan, I want you to think of partisan. Partisan means a part or a piece of. So if it's nonpartisan, we are looking at it as a whole. Partisan itself indicates a political party. That means that you actually have to choose one party or the other. So when you run for governor of Nebraska, it's a partisan race. You are either running as a Republican or you're running as a Democrat. However, if you are running for a seat in the Nebraska legislature, we are a nonpartisan state, which means that we do not vote or run based on political parties. This is the same for school board elections. So you don't have a school board member who is going to run as a Democrat or a Republican. They are just running in general. The last type is a blanket primary. And in this, you can pick and choose from the different offices which to vote for. So you receive one ballot with all of the offices and all of the different parties on them. So for example, if you are looking at a ballot for a primary for a governor, you may first choose to vote in the Republican area. That would be your one vote in that one. But when you are voting for the Attorney General, you may choose to vote on the Democrat ballot. It's one large ballot, but it's sectioned out. You just throw the blanket over which one or whichever you choose at that point in time. So again, quick review. We have closed, open, nonpartisan, and blanket primaries. These are all the first step in the process of elections. Nebraska typically has closed primaries. You vote either in the Republican primary or the Democratic primary. Others have an open primary, which is they open the door. Anybody can vote for anyone. You can choose different ballots. So if you're a Republican, you can vote on the Democratic primary and vice versa. Nonpartisan, meaning we don't identify with a political party at all. Non-part. So we're actually voting as a whole, not separating it out by political party. Or you can have the blanket primary in which you pick and choose. So here's your task for today. You're going to find and record the candidates running for the following political offices in Nebraska. You're going to be looking for the governor, the Senate, and the 3rd district race. You're going to use the brackets found on Moodle and then fill in the rest, the first lines indicating each candidate. Be sure to place them in primaries based on political party and indicate the incumbent with a star. This is the person who currently holds the office. Think in office. Incumbent, in office. So make sure you indicate which of those is currently in office. And you're going to use the PDF link on Moodle to help you fill in each of those brackets. Be sure again to put them into the correct area. So you might have one side that's Democratic, the other side that is Republican. You're trying to get them into that first primary, which we will keep track of. The first primary is in May, eventually getting us to the general election in November. So you're creating a March Madness bracket, so to speak. So hopefully this was a successful first lecture. If you have any questions, bring them to class with you. This activity of filling in the brackets, this can be done in class. So if you have questions, you can save and do those in class. However, you need to make sure that you have the vocabulary part done in your notebooks when you come to class tomorrow. Thanks, and hope this went well.